Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Blaise Misztal, JINSA's Vice President for Policy, and I'm delighted to be joined by two colleagues from Israel to discuss the latest developments in Israel's ceasefires in Gaza and Lebanon. Senior Distinguished Fellow at JINSA and former Israeli National Security Advisor, Major General Yaakov Amidror, and a former visiting fellow at JINSA and head of the IDF's International Cooperation Unit, General Effie Defrin. Thank you both for joining us this evening, your time. General Amidror, I wanted to start with you and start with Gaza. And I guess the first question is there or is there not a ceasefire in Gaza? Still or again? You're on mute, General.
Yes. Good evening. There is a ceasefire. This is the fact on the ground, effect on the ground, but in reality, the question is, will Hamas continue to release hostages in Saturday? Tomorrow we're supposed to get 3 names, according to the agreement, and how the situation will be influenced by what was said by the President of the United States of America. The Israeli formal position is that we have an agreement that should be fulfilled. We don't shake the boat by adding the president demand. And the question is, will Hamas will fulfill the agreement from its side and release the 3 hostages? From all what was said in Egypt and around the negotiations with Hamas, it's probably going to happen. And I think that Hamas will not take the risk of going to war now when this is the mood in Washington and in Jerusalem. But we don't know, and because we don't know, we took all the arrangements which are needed to make. The procedure in the IDF is in very high advanced, and the preparations for a big operation in Gaza are now confirmed by and approved by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense. But if you ask my assessment, a very high probability that Hamas will continue to release the hostages, because I don't see the organization taking the risk now.
Do you have a sense of what led them to announce that they would suspend the hostage releases in the first place? What was their objective? What was their reasoning?
I don't know. I think that they thought that they can blackmail, because they understood the sensitivity of the issue in Israel, and they thought that they can achieve something. But it is clear from our point of view that it would be a huge mistake to be more flexible now. We have an agreement that should be fulfilled. I think that there was kind of, how to say it, an assessment that we might let more construction abilities to enter to Gaza, machines and so on and so forth, but we are very determined nothing will be built in Gaza. If they have caravans and so on and so forth, we will allow it to enter, but nothing will be built in Gaza, because we understand that every building in Gaza, every process of building in Gaza means that Hamas will have the ability to build its own capabilities and needs and facilities, and that will not be allowed. So I think here is the tension between what we are ready to give them to bring into Gaza for enhance the ability of the people of Gaza to live somewhere, and what we are really ready to allow.
If the ceasefire were to fail and Israel were to resume the war, what would that operation look like, or what would be the constraints on that, given that Israel is now withdrawn from the Netzarim corridor?
Much less constraints than in the past. Then it will be all out, or it will be well understood here that we are running out of time relating to the hostages, and I think that it will be a huge operation, not a little one.
Do you have a sense, General, for how the security measures, the screenings at the Netzarim corridor with the security contractors are going? Are they actually succeeding in keeping Hamas from infiltrating back into the north?
No question that people of Hamas are succeeding to infiltrate. There is no way to screen it in a way that no Hamas member will go to the north. There is enough weapons for many Hamas members in the north. We didn't clean it totally. So every Hamas member which succeed to cross the Netzarim corridor going into the north is probably a new member of the Hamas forces in North Gaza.
And then one more question for you, General Amidror, before maybe I turn to General Defrin, which is, what is the status of negotiations towards phase 2 of the deal?
There is the government or the Prime Minister's office say there is no yet any conversations about it. The head of the security committee of the Knesset declared that there is beginning of something, and it was immediately got a negative reaction from the Prime Minister's office. If you ask me, informal, not fully agreed talks begin. It's not negotiation yet.
Is that going to be affected by anything that happens here in the United States, or what's going to sort of move Israel towards deciding whether to start those talks?
I think it is more about what the Prime Minister can do within its own coalition, in which there is a strong wing declaring that they will not allow any negotiations about second step, and the willingness of most of the Israelis, probably around 65-75% of the Israelis, from all aspects of the political spectrum, believe that we should continue to the negotiations. So the Prime Minister will have to find a fine line between the two.
And is there a consideration for possibly extending the first phase of the ceasefire in Gaza in order to allow more time for those phase 2 negotiations?
On the contrary, well, there is a pressure from outside and within Israel to shorten the first stage and to release more hostages than supposed to be released according to the agreement. Another 6, if I'm not mistaken, and the earlier the better because of the condition of the people. You could see it last week when they released the 3 men, and they were almost unbelievable, many problems in their heads.
I mean, speaking of the releases, is there anything that Israel can do to stop these horrendous proceedings that Hamas does, walking the hostages through the crowds, putting them on stages? I mean, it's criminal how they do it.
Yes, but this is Hamas. I mean, we have here to deal with criminal organizations, so we should not be surprised. This is why we want to shorten the next stage, so the 6 hostages will come as early as possible every day in the tiles or where they put them is very problematic.
Thank you, General Amidror. General Defrin, let me ask you, since you spent a lot of time talking to the Jordanians and the Egyptians, and they've been in the news as pertains to perhaps the future of Gaza. What are you hearing from your colleagues in Jordan and Egypt about how they see the ceasefire and what happens next in Gaza?
Well, first, there is a lot of discomfort from after President Trump declarations about the future of Gaza and deporting Gazans into Egypt and Jordan, and they are very uncomfortable with it. Naturally, we saw, the body language of the King Abdullah meeting President Trump this week in DC, scratching his face and blinking. They are very uncomfortable with that. No need to elaborate about the situation in Jordan. Egypt is much more blunt than Jordan, while the Jordanians trying to walk in between the raindrops without getting wet. The Egyptians are much blunt. We all saw the cancellation of the visit by President Sisi to DC was planned for next week. He declared from day one that they won't accept even one Palestinian refugee. We know that for almost 16 months now. Since day one, they've built a high wall. They love the Gazans so much, so they built a very nice concrete wall, 6 meters high, right behind our fence, between Gaza and Egypt. They built another one right after the October 7th, just to make sure that even one single Gazan will cross to Egypt. So he declared it. Now it's the Arab pride, Egyptian pride. What will happen next? We don't know. We saw declarations from both sides, but they are very uncomfortable. Having said that, the Egyptians are putting lots of efforts together with their Qatari friends in trying to extend the ceasefire and this deal keep it going on. They actually made an effort this week to make it happen. And it looks like General Amidror mentioned, it looks like it's going to continue as planned on next Saturday. With the next poll should be another 3 hostages coming back. Tomorrow hopefully we'll get the names, and Saturday we'll see them back home. So the Jordanians and the Egyptians, they're looking for stability and the quiet. That's it, as far as they're concerned.
Thank you. Maybe if we turn to the north, where the ceasefire phase 1 of the ceasefire has been extended, but is supposed to end in the next week, I believe February 18th. And I believe the U.S. has said that there would be no extension, and the IDF has to withdraw by that time. So I don't know, General Defrin, if you could fill us in on the latest there. Is the IDF prepared to withdraw by the 18th?
Right. So first, there are lots of differences between what is being published out in the media, the Israeli media, the American media, and what is really happening behind the scenes. So again, from day one, the Israel, backed by America, by the U.S., and quietly agreed by the Lebanese themselves, the main idea, the main principle of this agreement, the ceasefire agreement with Lebanon, was that it is up to merit, up to the performance of the Lebanese armed forces. It's and not due to timetable. So now the IDF insists that those conditions will be fulfilled, and I'll give you 3 of them, which we spoke about that in the past. First is the basic thing of the withdrawal of Hezbollah north of the Litani River. Didn't happen yet. Hezbollah is still under they still believe they can play the old game of staying in South Lebanon covertly. The rest of the civilians, participating or a kind of, you remember the Green Without Borders, this NGO, this kind of organizations between civilians and so on and so forth, and without uniform and not overt, only covert. Of course, the IDF or Israel won't allow it, and we are implementing it wherever the IDF sees or detect Hezbollah operative trying to do something. We attack. We are implementing it, of course, after sharing this information with the other side through the American mechanism, through this new mechanism, through the committee established by the Americans. And so this is one thing, Hezbollah up to the north. Second thing is the posture of Lebanese armed forces. They committed to 10,000 troops down south. on March, they will reach the number of 5,000. Now it's not about the numbers; it's about implementing the agreement. Now they have problems on the Syrian border, so they have to send some troops over there as well. So there are some technical problems also to the Lebanese armed forces, but and it will take time. They should take the Lebanese government, Lebanese military should play his role, should be committed to this agreement as well. And the third one is the weapons embargo, the demilitarization of Lebanon. We still see attempts to smuggle weapons from Syria. As we speak now, there is a mini drama in Beirut airport. I don't know if you're following, but there is an airplane which is due to leave Tehran airport to Beirut. And yesterday, the Israeli spokesperson declared that this civilian airplane, that will leave Tehran to Beirut will carry money going to Hezbollah, and Israel won't allow it. Therefore, the Lebanese government stopped this. Didn't allow it to take off from Tehran, and there is a drama now and strikes and fire, and Hezbollah operators put on fire the road to the airport in Beirut. So those three things are not implemented yet. Now on 1st of March, the Israeli government announced going back to school on the Israeli side of the border, on our northern borders. Civilians on the Israeli side, the displaced people won't go back home if they won't feel safe. Some of the municipality leaders and mayors declared they won't go back. They won't allow their citizens to go back home until they will feel safe. They need to see the IDF between them and Lebanon to make sure October 7th doesn't happen on the northern border while Hezbollah is still there. So the IDF insists now on, and I believe with understanding from the U.S. part, the U.S. committee led by General Jasper Jeffress in Lebanon, everything is coordinated with him. So the IDF is planning to leave behind on the Lebanese ground, on the high grounds, 5 posts that will create, that will separate between, actually, literally between Lebanon and those Israeli villages. 5 high ground points. So we are going to implement the agreement. We're going to leave on the 18th, leaving those 5 points behind until the agreement will be implemented completely, and civilians will feel safe. Because that's the situation for now in Lebanon.
General Amidror, any additional insights into the situation in Lebanon and the strength of the ceasefire? You're on mute, sir.
I think it's important to remember that the situation in Lebanon is totally different. When the disappearing of the Syrian from the bridge, which was built by the Iranians from Tehran through Iraq, Syria into the Mediterranean, when the disappearing of Syria, the meaning of it is a strategic blow to Hezbollah in Iran. The dream of the Iranians to rearm Hezbollah after the huge blow that they suffered during the war cannot be implemented. There is no physical way, practical way to do it. Yes, they can bring money through flights from Tehran, but you cannot bring weapon systems that way. And the ability of Hezbollah to recover is almost zero. They try to smuggle, as was mentioned by the general, to smuggle from Syria, but it is here and there. And remember, the Syrian regime is hostile to Hezbollah as Israel at least. And they will not tolerate any attempt by the Shiites in Lebanon to use Syria, controlled today by the Sunnis, for the benefit of Hezbollah. And I think that the Iranians and Hezbollah understand the huge strategic change, and understand that the vulnerability of Hezbollah as an organization in a country which lost the backyard in Syria and the bridge to Iran. It's totally different situation of the organization, which is now isolated within Lebanon. What will happen tomorrow when the Sunnis of Syria will cooperate with the Sunnis of Lebanon and will make them stronger? What will happen to Hezbollah? I'm sure that the Hezbollah leaders are asking themselves the question, and they don't have a good answer. So we have to understand the attitude of Hezbollah towards the aggressive implementation of the agreement by the IDF within the context of the new situation of Hezbollah. They have to be very cautious because they understand that if they give Israel any excuse, they don't have an answer. The Iranians are not there to help them. The Syrians are not there to help them. They will have to deal with the IDF by themselves when their situation is very weak. So the whole issue in Lebanon can be understood only within the context of the new situation, a very weak situation of Hezbollah because of the success of the IDF and because of the success of the Sunnis rebels in Syria. And the combination between the two is a huge problem for Hezbollah.
And yet, General Amidror, we've been hearing ever since the ceasefire of Iranian attempts to keep bringing money into Lebanon for Hezbollah. General Defrin was just telling us about the latest example with this plane coming in from Tehran. Even at a time when most of Iran has gone dark because of electricity shortages, they still seem to want to keep funding Hezbollah. Do you think they're going to have to end that at some point? Do you think they're going to give up on trying to rebuild Hezbollah?
I don't know, and it doesn't matter, because in this present situation, they cannot change the strategic vulnerability of the organization. They need the money to pay for those who lost their houses, for those which their parents had been killed, or their father was killed, and the family needs some help. It cannot change the strategic situation. It might ease some problems within the Shiite community about people and families which lost either the ability to earn money for food or build their houses because it was destroyed by the IDF somehow. It cannot change the situation.
General Defrin, let me ask you a little more about the LAF. You said that they do not have sufficient numbers or the numbers that were agreed upon in southern Lebanon yet. But have we seen any demonstration of their willingness or ability to take on Hezbollah, to try to keep them out of the south and try to remove weapons from the area south of the Litani?
Thank you, Blaise. That's a good question. I will start answering, not by answering about LAF itself, but I'll start talking about the Lebanese political system, ability to understand their responsibility. Because it seems like there is a new government, there are new intentions, good people, both new prime minister and president are good people, better than if Nasrallah was alive, probably both of them weren't prime minister and president right now as we speak. So they are good people, but still the mentality and the culture there is led by the Speaker of the House, Mr. Nabih Berri. The mentality is Hezbollah is there and Hezbollah is strong and is dominant and we should play alongside with him. While the situation, as General Amidror described before, it's not the situation. So it's too early to eulogize Hezbollah. He's not dead, he's still there. He still have the capacity to attack Israel. It will be a stupid mistake, but he has the capacity. But he is not as strong as he used to be in the past. He's weakened dramatically from the reasons General Amidror mentioned before. They should open a new page here. It's a different book, and they are playing according to the old book rule. And Nabih Berri is leading that. The Shia, what's called the Shia duel, Amal and Hezbollah. It's a new ball game, and the Lebanese government should take responsibility first, because they should give the right orders to the LAF. There are good intentions within LAF. He's trying to do his best. We are very happy with the improvement in its performance down on the south, but it's not perfect. It's far from being perfect. It's better than what it used to be in the past, but it's not. I mean, they are not given the right orders from their cabinet, from their Minister of Defense, from the leadership in Lebanon, and that should be changed first. Now, this is one thing. The second thing is we see, and it goes to, we spoke in the past about UNIFIL and UNIFIL's role in South Lebanon. The new mechanism created now, led by the Americans, again, by General Jasper Jeffers, who is leading this committee, and together with the French, with some French contingency in South Lebanon, the connection or the contact between the ITF through this American mechanism and LAF is much better than what it used to be in the past. For me, as the one who led this effort in the last 5 years, it's a dream come true. It never happened because UNIFIL was impotent. Now it questions the role of UNIFIL in the future. Is it relevant anymore? Unfortunately, I can witness from first I was there that UNIFIL is part of the problem. He helped Hezbollah unintentionally. Helped Hezbollah, hide in South Lebanon and play this game of being there without being there, private territories, agreement without borders, and so on and so forth. So we are happy with that, but there is still a long way to go. They have to implement properly. It will take time. One more thing I would like to mention here, and being blunt, no politically correct here from my side. There is a lot of corruption in the Lebanese system, still, political and military. We have to acknowledge that. It will take time to change the system. The LAF should be revitalized. Change the officers and the ranks. There are still portions in the Lebanese intelligence that cooperate with Hezbollah, trying to sabotage the efforts being made by the parties to improve the situation in South Lebanon or in Lebanon as a whole. And foreign money, foreign currency is not coming to Lebanon because the European countries and United States of America, they don't trust the Lebanese system because of its corruption. So there is a long way to go. We should support LAF. We are happy with what they are doing. It's not good. It's better than what they do in the past. Money should not be passed directly to Lebanon or to LAF for salaries only, because still as we speak, a soldier and an officer in LAF is gaining much less money than what his counterpart in Hezbollah gains, and it's not good. It helps Hezbollah to recruit new people to its ranks and not LAF. So money should go to salaries, but any other support should be conditioned by disconnecting the relations between LAF and Hezbollah and improving the performance.
Thank you, General Defrin. One more question for you, and then I want to open it up to the audience. If you have a question for General Amidror or General Defrin, please submit it using the Q&A feature in Zoom, and I'll read it out to them. But first, General Defrin, since you did mention the implementation mechanism, which is led by, as you said, General Jasper Jeffers, I heard recently from the State Department that General Jeffers is going to be returning back to the U.S. at the end of the month because he's also the commander of Special Operations Forces in Central Command. He's the SOC commander, and he's coming back to Tampa to take on that role. And at least the last I heard, the plan is not to replace him with another general officer, but to leave lower-ranking officers in charge. Do you have a sense of what impact that might have on the effectiveness of the mechanism?
I can tell you that his role now is crucial. It's crucial. It's like the backbone of the entire ceasefire agreement, or what I call the new arrangement between IDF and LAF, or between Israel and Lebanon. Without the American contingency, without the American supporter, led by a high-ranking officer on the ground, it won't happen. Leaving it back to UNIFIL is the same UNIFIL as we had prior to October 7th. For 5 years, I've been dealing with them, and many people before me. They are part of the problem. Many countries, including contributing countries to UNIFIL, I know, they feel the same thing. They want to support Lebanon, but this mechanism led by the UN is not good anymore. It should be revitalized dramatically. And until it'll happen, if at all, the American contingency led by a high-ranking American officer should be there. I think it's too early. I don't believe. I don't see it happen. I don't see. Maybe this specific general will leave, but we will have to see someone. No one else, not the French and not other Europeans or others, can play this role better than the Americans.
Thank you, General Defrin.
If I may, I was the Southern Command intelligence officer at the end of the 80s for more than 3 years. Our experience then with UNIFIL was very, very bad. At the end of the day, it was kind of a shield for Hezbollah and preventive element for us, because they afraid from Hezbollah. They didn't make their job and their duty. They never sent a report about any weapon system which is coming to the south. And at the same time, we had to take them into account when we plan to do something in South Lebanon. So from the Israeli point of view, UNIFIL is a negative element. And without the American leadership and system, it will not work.
Thank you. Let me turn to questions from the audience. I think this first one for you, General Defrin, from Jay Solomon of the Free Press. You mentioned that Egypt and Jordan are against taking Palestinian refugees, but do you think this could change? The UAE ambassador to the United States said in Dubai today that he sees no alternative to the Trump Gaza plan. Do you think the UAE is taking a leadership position on this issue, like it did with the Abraham Accords?
So good question. I know I can't be a prophet and see what will happen next. There is no doubt, and regardless of what I think about President Trump, that he actually shook the system. He shook the box. He didn't get out of the box. He's shaken the entire system. The entire region is shaken now. And it's good. It's good for the cause. Because for more than 8 decades, we are repeating the same mistakes, same solutions to the old problem without any progress. It only gets worse. It's only getting worse. So we are seeing a fresh thinking, whether it's you think it's good or bad, but that's a new thinking which makes the system think differently. Now the Egyptians are rushing and suggesting offers. They have two. I saw a declaration coming from their presidency yesterday that they have now 2 different grand strategic plans for Gaza that will change the entire situation on the ground in Gaza without having any Palestinian live in Gaza at all. The Jordanians mentioned that they have some kind of solutions. Saudi, UAE are involved. Nobody wants to see a destabilized region. Everybody wants, for his own sake, for the security of their own regimes, they want to see stability. Therefore, they will have to think differently. They will have to act. Will they take Palestinian refugees? Will they have to cover it up with different story, like we saw a declaration coming from King Abdullah claiming that he will accept 2,000 children, injured or sick children from Gaza to his kingdom. So that may be one solution. Maybe they will support with funds, moving some Palestinians to different countries in Africa. I saw many ideas coming. The entire system is moving and changing its way of thinking. But the situation as it is now can't stay like that. We cannot see Hamas in power after any agreement, any ceasefire, any phases of this deal. So it will have to change. Otherwise, it will repeat itself, and we'll see the IDF going in. And there are plans now. The IDF is planning how to change the situation dramatically on the ground. It didn't in the last 16 months. Now, the second phase in Gaza, if we will have to go back to it militarily, it will be totally different because now we don't have Lebanon. We can focus on Gaza, and we have a different, very different administration in Washington, which are backing and supporting Israel. So it's a totally different ballgame now.
Thank you.
If I may, about that subject, I agree with what was said. If we can say there are two different elements in the president's speech. First of all was the description of the situation, the diagnostic stage. I think that no one can argue with it. Gaza today is not a place for human beings to live and people to flourish and to raise their children. It's almost totally destroyed in this war which was imposed by Hamas on Israel. You can say that you don't agree with the offer that he put on the table, the prognostic element, and let's the Arab countries offer another solution. They cannot ignore the fact that they cannot, on the back of the Palestinians, to be negative without offering something positive. And to say no all the time, it's very nice, but not when you have almost 2 million people that don't have any conditions to live.
We have another question for you, General Amidror from Benavansky from Fox News. What are your expectations for what will happen Saturday at noon?
Another expectations. I have an assessment that Hamas will release the 3 hostages, and we will continue with to implement the agreement which was signed or was agreed. It wasn't signed. It was agreed between through negotiations with the Egyptians and Qatar, and that will be implemented by both sides. This is my assessment.
Another question from Richard Altman on the Trump's Gaza plan. Any sense of what the source for it was, and how seriously is it being taken by the Israeli government?
I think that the Americans understood that it is kind of a stupid way to deal with the Gaza Strip, like nothing happened since the beginning of the war. They looked at the situation and say, guys, this is not a place to live. And they are right. This is not a place to live. And Israel will not let it be rebuilt unless Hamas will be taken out and Gaza Strip will be disarmed. We are not going to make the same mistake again. It will be huge, stupid decision by Israel if Israel gives the ability to rebuild the Gaza, because the meaning of rebuild Gaza is to rebuild Hamas. And that is something that we don't want and we will not let. So the situation on the ground is such that cannot be ignored. And if it will be ignored, it will be on the back of the Palestinians.
Roger Gerber asks, is it possible that Israel will continue to agree in phase 2 to the absurd dribbling out of hostages, or will it demand that all of them be released, like Trump has said?
No, I don't see them all released in Saturday. It's not going to happen. We have an agreement. What we demand is that the agreement will be fulfilled. No one is ready now to test the boat and to lose it. If we have an agreement, let's implement the agreement, and only then we will think about the next stage, and only then it will be wise to see what can be changed, if it can be changed. I'm not sure, by the way.
General Defrin, a question for you from Andrew Bernard from JNS. Can you go into more detail about what the situation on the Lebanese border would have to look like to allow northern communities to return? You mentioned the IDF between them and Lebanon? Would that be an IDF presence beyond the blue line?
Well, there will always have to be, I think, I don't know if always, but in the next few years, we will have to have a pure, strong obstacle, much better than what we saw in the past, and we'll have to see impressive portion of IDF soldiers between Israel and Lebanon on the Israeli border. That, if the 1701 Security Council Resolution 1701 will be implemented totally, and the posture of the LAF, the Lebanese Armed Forces, will be as agreed on the south, with more than 10,000 troops on the right places, and no Hezbollah over there, no arm and demilitarization, and all the other freedom of movement to LAF and to UNIFIL if UNIFIL exists there. Without the games that we saw before, no hostility coming from the Lebanese side of the border to the Israeli side of the border. Things have changed dramatically in the Israeli mindset since October 7th, and we can understand why. So I'm not pessimistic, I'm optimistic, but it will take time to take out, even if the LAF will implement this agreement, even if it will be change his posture in South Lebanon to the troops that I mentioned before. Some of them are cooperating with Hezbollah. It's not a secret. There are elements, as I mentioned before, in LAF intelligence who are cooperating with Hezbollah. It will take time. Some of the high-ranking leadership in LAF are corrupted. Money is not going down to the money comes into the military, is not going to the right purposes. It's going to their own pockets. So things have to change, both on the political system in Lebanon and in LAF. The first stage is implementing 1701, changing the posture, bringing troops down south. Hezbollah cannot be there at all, totally. We cannot play this game anymore of hide and seek, and playing the game of Hezbollah disguised as civilians or as an NGO and staying there. No. And the third element is UNIFIL, as I mentioned before. It should be changed. His role, his mandate should be changed dramatically. By the way, next August, that's the next station. If we can all recall that in the last when President Trump administration was last in office on August, they didn't renew the mandate of UNIFIL, and for 2 weeks after the renewal in August, they didn't leave their post, and it was almost canceled. By Israeli effort, they renewed the mandate on the Security Council. So maybe it won't be relevant this August. So those three elements should be implemented: 1701, the posture of LAF, and the role of UNIFIL. And of course, in any case, IDF and obstacle should be there in big numbers.
Okay. Well, General Amidror, General Defrin, thank you so much for your time this evening. Thank you to all of those of you who joined in the audience. Have a good afternoon, and we'll see you at the next webinar.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.